Good evening, afternoon or morning. Movie Cat is at the microphone, and today I will tell you about a film where a guy gets the power of a superhero and uses it to get a job in an office. For your attention, a comedy from 1998, Senseless. And in order not to lose this channel, I recommend you to subscribe. Darryl Witherspoon is studying economics at the University of Stratford. To help his family, Daryl takes on any available work. For example, he conducts tours of the University of Stratford for applicants, and on the way, he delivers mail between faculties and also asks his group to help him with garbage collection and washing dishes in the cafeteria. One evening his mother calls him and asks how her son is doing and how soon he will work on Wall Street. Daryl replies that it is not so simple, because in order to get a job at the prestigious financial firm Smythe Bates, he needs to go through a big competition. Then his mother asks if Daryl could pay $200 to the utility company so the gas in her flat won't be cut off. Daryl asks to send him a bill, hangs up and writes the amount into the table of his already hefty debts. Suddenly, Daryl receives a call from the university to inform him that he has not paid his tuition for this semester. He replies in a high-pitched voice that Daryl is dead. In the morning, Daryl goes to donate blood to get some more money. Changing clothes and changing his headdress, he donates blood 4 times. Daryl's roommate, Tim, reports that the house owner reminded about the rent. Daryl sighs and says that Tim is good because he has a hockey scholarship from the university. At the university during lunch, Daryl serves food. His classmate, Scott, tells Daryl that he is also applying for a place in Smythe Bates, and in this he has no equal. After all, he is an excellent student, has experience in trade, and is the president of the student club. His father also runs a large bank in Manhattan. The head of the Human Resources Department at Smythe Bates comes to an economics lecture and says that once a year they select the best student for the position of trainee analyst. The applicant must have a high grade point average, significant athletic achievements, and be a member of one of the student fraternities. Then, from these best students, Smythe Bates will form 5 finalists, and based on the exam results, only one candidate will be selected. Daryl understands that he doesn't measure up at all. Sure, he's a great student, but he thinks students' fraternities are a bunch of idiots, and his only involvement in university sports is fetching water and towels for the hockey team. Then, to begin with, Daryl asks his friend Tim, a forward on the hockey team, to persuade the coach to let him out on the ice. Since Daryl almost can't skate, he decides to take the position of a goalkeeper. The coach blows the whistle, and within 1 minute, all the flying pucks end up in the goal, because instead of hitting them, Daryl simply squeals loudly. Later he goes to his next job, sweeping the street. Suddenly, Daryl sees an advertisement on a pole for a part-time job at the Department of Neuropsychology. There, the manager offers to come and participate in the testing of an experimental drug. However, when she talks about possible side effects, drowsiness, insomnia, headaches, intestinal colic, constipation, itching and burning in the anus, then everyone who came left. Only Daryl remains, because he was asleep all this time. The doctor explains that the experimental drug takes human senses to a much higher level. In simple terms, vision, hearing, taste, smell and touch will be enhanced tenfold. The doctor gives detailed instructions regarding use, and also that after the first injection, the body will need some time to adapt to the heightened senses. But Daryl does not listen to him very carefully and constantly interrupts with the question of how much he will be paid for this. The doctor eventually replies that it's $3,000, and before leaving, he reminds Daryl not to overdose under any circumstances. Daryl leaves the drug at home and heads to the Kappa fraternity party to try and join them because he needs it for his resume. At a party, Daryl meets a cheerful and very beautiful girl named Janice. Daryl asks her out for a drink sometime, and Janice agrees. Scott, a guy with a rich and powerful father, is also the president of the Kappa fraternity. He mockingly informs Daryl that he is too good for their fraternity and therefore he does not belong here at all. Frustrated, Daryl returns home and his eyes fall on a bright green bottle of experimental drug. He gives the injection and falls asleep. In the morning, Daryl goes to the university, where he takes an important test in economics. Suddenly, Daryl feels a terrible smell from the mouth of a guy sitting 4 rows behind him. A small diamond on the neck of a classmate blinds Daryl, and the second hand on the neighbor's watch sounds like a tank shot. Daryl can't stand it anymore, jumps up from his chair and shouts for everyone to stop this quickly, so that the teacher does not consider him crazy. Daryl quickly says that he is having an epileptic seizure and leaves. Daryl complains to the doctor about hypersensitivity, and the doctor advises him to concentrate and take control of his feelings. At home, Daryl does just that, and suddenly it works out for him. Now he can clearly see his fingerprints in detail and hear conversations on the other side of the street. And most importantly, it no longer bothers him. In the evening, he goes to work at a banquet hosted by Smythe Bates, who, for some reason, want to spend a lot of money on an expensive dinner in honor of such a significant event as a selection of 5 final candidates for the position of analyst trainee. Naturally, Daryl was not included in this number because he failed an important test. At the banquet, Daryl undertakes to serve the table where the head of Smythe Bates, Mr. Tyson, is sitting along with the finalists. Keen hearing helps Daryl overhear that Mr. Tyson is talking to Scott about the state of the market and the shares of promising companies. So Daryl puts the newspaper at the other end of the restaurant, open to the page with the latest stock quotes, and intervenes in the conversation to impress Mr. Tyson. Using his knowledge, as well as his ultra-far vision, Daryl answers all the questions. Mr. Tyson decides to make Daryl the 6th finalist. In the morning, Daryl goes to the doctor to take tests. He easily reads the very bottom line on the vision test poster, the one where it says in which printing house the poster was made. The doctor says that a number of more tests need to be carried out, but Daryl refuses because he is late for his business. Then the doctor gives him another supply of the drug and reminds Daryl not to exceed the dose. In the evening, Daryl heads to the Kappa fraternity party. At the entrance, he meets Scott, who reminds him that Daryl is not a member of the club and must leave. However, Daryl ignores him and simply enters the house. Suddenly Daryl is noticed by Mr. Tyson, who for some reason is also a member of the club. Although he graduated from university about 40 years ago, Mr. Tyson welcomes Daryl to the club. Later, Daryl meets Janice at the club, a girl he really liked the last time he was there. She notices Daryl's Kappa Club badge and she is impressed. Daryl says he worked hard to earn this badge, then he offers to walk the girl home. On the way, with the help of his heightened sense of smell, Daryl finds a cut rose in some old cut and gives the flower to Janice. At her door, they agree to meet again sometime. At home, Daryl injects himself with another dose of the drug, and this is noticed by his neighbor Tim, who begins to suspect the worst: drugs. Later that evening, Daryl goes to the hockey team's practice and convinces the coach to put him in goal again. The coach agrees with difficulty. Daryl takes his stick, stands in the goal, and demonstrating an incredible reaction speed, he hits absolutely all the pucks. The coach is delighted and puts Daryl in goal for the next game. In a tense match against a stronger team, Daryl saves his goal several dozen times, and thanks to this, Stratford wins. Mr. Tyson is very impressed. The hockey team and Kappa Club membership give Daryl a serious advantage, and Mr. Tyson invites him to the front row of a Friday night basketball game to introduce him to one of Smythe Bates' most promising clients. Things are going great for Daryl. His heightened sense of smell helps him prepare an incredibly delicious dinner and thereby surprise Janice. However, his heightened sensitivity ends sex with Janice at the kissing stage. Later, Daryl injects himself with another dose. After thinking a little, Daryl decides that a double dose will not kill him, but, on the contrary, will multiply him by 2. In the morning, Daryl wakes up in a terrible state. He barely hears the alarm clock and has difficulty getting to his feet. Having miraculously reached the doctor, Daryl learns that after exceeding the dose, his brain is unable to cope with 5 senses at the same time. One of the senses will constantly fall out. For example, if Daryl sees, smells, touches and tastes, then hearing will turn off. Daryl shouts that the doctor's words would make sense if he heard them. The doctor says that the excess drug will leave the body on its own. Daryl just need to wait 3 days. preferably in a bet. However, Daryl cannot do this because the next 3 days will decide whether he will get a job at Smythe Bates. In the evening, he goes to basketball with Mr. Tyson and the management of Smythe Bates. Suddenly, right in the middle of the conversation, Daryl's hearing turns off and, in order to avoid awkwardness, he suggests going for a beer. Daryl gets up from his chair and calls out to the guy who sells beer many times at the top of his lungs. The entire podium is shocked because the US anthem is now playing. When Daryl buys beer and returns back, his vision turns off. Daryl finds a chair with difficulty, sits down and tells his neighbor that the center player, Patrick Evan, sucks and looks like a Hawaiian gorilla. Patrick Evan, listening to this, gets offended and throws Daryl right onto the floor. Disappointed, Mr. Tyson tells Daryl that he will come to his hockey match and hopes that he will be at his best there. Meanwhile, one of the most beautiful girls in the university has noticed that Daryl has become popular and so she comes to his house to seduce him. Daryl doesn't mind, however, his vision, hearing and then sensitivity fail again at the wrong time. The beauty, offended by the lack of an erection, leaves Daryl absolutely helpless in his underpants right on the floor. A minute later, Janice finds him like this. Sure that he cheated on her, she leaves Daryl. After this, Daryl gets dressed and goes to the Kappa Club, where a rite of passage is to take place, which humiliates the candidates for membership, the members of the club who invented it, and indeed humanity. However, Daryl's taste turns off in time and without any difficulty. He drinks the punch, in which many incompatible ingredients were mixed, and when Scott takes it upon himself to spank the candidate, Daryl suddenly stops feeling anything. Afterwards, Daryl goes to a hockey game and during the match his vision permanently disappears, causing his team to lose 12-0. His only chance of getting a job at Smythe Bates now is to pass the exams excellently. Daryl finds his friend Tim at the bar and asks him to help get ready. Throughout the night, Tim and his friends ask questions about economics, which Daryl successfully answers. Meanwhile, Scott is also preparing for the exam, only in a huge office, surrounded by professional economists and teachers. In the morning, Daryl goes to the exam and in the middle of the street his vision disappears. Suddenly, a homeless man takes him into an alley, robs him and takes all the clothes. Daryl, in desperation, goes to the nearest store and asks for a suit, promising to bring money for it tomorrow. The seller probably doesn't believe him, so he dresses Daryl, who still can't see anything, in a suit that the store couldn't sell. Daryl comes to the building where the exam is taking place and suddenly sees himself in the mirror in the toilet. He gets scared by his appearance and then suddenly the rest of the experimental drug comes out of him. During the exam, Daryl answers all the questions brilliantly and Mr. Tyson gives him the position at Smythe Bates. However, Daryl admits that he was deceiving everyone using an experimental drug. No, not today, but before that. Then Mr. Tyson says that Smythe Bates will not take on a trainee analyst this year and he advises Daryl to try next year. Janice, when she finds out that Daryl was acting strange because of the experimental drug, forgives him. A year later, Daryl manages to get a job at Smythe Bates and celebrates this event with his family, girlfriend and his friends. Thank you for watching, and if you had such a drug in your hands, how would you use it? Write in the comments. Also give the thumb up and please don't forget to subscribe.